Hello friends, welcome back to Smart Coder. We are back with a video, and today video we will learn how we can make the chat application in our Flutter and by using the Node.js API. So this application will going to have a feature like real-time messaging with the help of the Socket.io. Then we have the cross-platform with the Android, iOS and the web, and we have the message status tracking of send, deliver or read. And then we have the feature of the typing indicator, which will show when the user is typing. Also we have the feature for the online status. With the help of that we can track the user online or offline status with last seen timestamp, and whole this application will be on the basis of the event based architecture and all. So this is our application, and here we have the option for the register and the login. And when we click on the register, we have the option for name, email ID, password. Then we have the option for the register now, and if the user already logged in, we will click on the login, and from here we will just log into the device. We will log in here, snippet coder, password 123, password 123, and we click on the login here. You can see here when we logged in here, there we are going to have the all the usernames here, and then here we have the chat room. But whenever we chat with anyone, that will display here. And in the same way we'll log into the different device also. Here we are going to log in with Rajat, password 123. We click login here. So now here you will see here the direct message will show the username which are registered in our system, and here it will not show the logged in user. Same here. And now if I going to click on the snippet code in the device 2, which is login here, it will show here login because the application is running here. So now if I send a message here, if I put here test1 and if I press here send, you can see here the message came here immediately. It will also show the message count here. In the same way, if I send another message like second message, and if I click on the send here, you can see here the count will be come to the 2, and it will display here the last message which came here. And you can see here it is showing the double tick here. That means the message deliver here, but it is not showing the blue tick because the message not yet read. So now if I click here, if I go to that user chat room, you will see here the status has been changed here to blue tick. So in the same way, if I type here something, so you can see here in the top Rajesh is typing. So that means it will also show the typing indicator also. So when we stop typing, it will not show anything. When we restart typing, you can see here it is again showing here. When we stop typing, it will not show. So in the same way, if I press here send, you will see here message coming here with the timestamp also, and immediately it is converted to the read status because the message read here. So in the same way, if I send message from here test, and here it is also showing the snippet code is typing here. So now if I press enter here, you can see immediately message coming here. And the same way, if I go back and if I type any message new and if press enter, you will see here message also came here, the new message from the Rajat. We have the option for open here. So before starting a video, if you are new to our channel, subscribe our channel by clicking the subscribe button and click the bell icon to get notified about our latest videos. So now we will do the Socket.io integration by using the methods which we have created in our chat service file. So for that, first we have to go to the server.js file, and from here we have to import some of the packages. First one will be our import server, that will be from our Socket.io. Now here we have to do the modifications. First we have to create the server, and we have to write here HTTP server, the variable name. Then we have to call the object here create server, and we have to pass here app. Then here we have to write constant io, and constant io is equal to new of server HTTP server comma, and we have to write here course origin star. So what we are doing here, first we have created the HTTP server with the Express app here, and after that here we are just doing the create Socket.io server with the course and enable so that we can access our Socket.io server from any domain. After that we have to create one variable here. Here also we have to do the modification. So here instead of doing the app.listen, we will do HTTP server.listen, and this variable name is HTTP server. So now we will do our Socket.io integration all. Now first of all, we have to create one variable that will track all the online users with the map, and there we have to store all the user IDs. Here we have to write constant online users is equal to new of map. After that, we have to handle the new socket connections and all. We have to write here io dot on, and the event name will be connection. Here we have the socket variable. So here we have to console log the new client connected with the socket ID and all. We have to write here new client connected, and here we have to put the socket dot ID, so that we can also do the tracking and all, like whenever any new user created, so it will be easier for us to do the debugging and all. Now here we have to create one variable that will track the user ID for this socket, and here we will write let current user ID is equal to null, and here we have to do the first event for our handling the user registration and all. We have to write here socket dot on register user, and here we have to pass the user ID. Here we will check if not of user ID, then we will return here. We will just validate if the user IDs exist or not. After that, we will map this current user ID with this user ID, and this event will be called from our application, that like whenever any user register or log into our application, then we have to call this socket so that it will add that particular user to our collection of the active users and all. And here we have to set online users dot set, and we have to set this user ID with the socket ID. Here also we can do the console log so that we know which event is getting fired here. We will write here user, and we have to pass this variable for user ID register with socket, and we have to pass here the socket ID of that user. After that, we have to create one more method that will be used for tracking the pending message and all for that user, and the name of the method will be check pending messages. So it will be like in the UI, whenever any user register, then the chat room list will become, and then the list of the user will be displayed there, and there we have to show how many pending messages, and that count will be shown in the chat room list and all. And this function we will cover later on at last. Before that, we will complete all our events and all. So our next event will be for joining the room and all, and here we have socket on. Here we have join underscore room async. Here we have our variables which we will pass in this join room, user ID and partner ID. So here basically what it will do, it will handle the joining a chat room with the user ID and the partner ID. Then we will create the chat room ID from this. Here we will check not of user ID, not of partner ID. Then from here we will console log. Here we will write invalid join room request missing user ID or partner ID, and from here we will just return the method, so it will not proceed further. After that, we have to do the same thing that we did here to store that user in the online user and all. We will write here current user ID is equal to user ID, and we will set this user ID. After that, we have to generate the room ID. What we will do here, constant room ID is equal to get room ID, and that helper method will call here. We will write user ID comma partner ID, and from here we will join the socket here, socket dot join room ID. So here in the register user, we will just do the handling of the user registration event, and we will just set that current user to the user ID, and we will add that user to that online user collection, and there we will just check for the pending messages that we will cover later on in this video. And for the login API for the socket join, we will call this one, and from here we will write console.log, and we will put here user, this user ID join room, and we will mention here room ID. So after that, what we will do, we will mark our undelivered messages as a deliver when any user join it. So here we will put inside our try, and here we have the catch error, and here we will create one variable constant undelivered count is equal to await, and from our chat service we will call one function. If we go inside our chat service, and there we have one function name mark message as a deliver, we will call from here, and from here we are expecting two variables, user ID and the partner ID. Those we will pass from here, user ID and partner ID. So here we will check if undelivered count is more than 0. Then here we will do the console log mark count. We will put here undelivered messages as delivered for, and we will mention here user ID. So here take an example like user A send any message to user B. In that case user B is offline, and once the user B came online, then this join will be called. After that it will check all the undelivered count, how many messages are undelivered to that user B. Then it will mark them as a deliver because that user is online now. And after that, and once the user is online, and those messages which are in a sent status will be marked as a deliver. And after that we have to fetch the latest status of those messages from the DB, and then we have to send the status to the user A, so that user A will be came to know that those messages has been sent. So here we will write constant undeliver messages is equal to await get undeliver messages. This is a function. So here is a small correction, like this method we have to call before updating the status of the messages. What we will do, we will just fill all the undelivered messages in the array. We'll write here user ID and the partner ID. Then we will check here if undelivered count is more than 0. Then we will console write, and then we will loop through this undelivered messages, and we will emit the event to the message underscore status. And here we will write undelivered messages dot for each message. Here we have io dot to room id dot emit message underscore status. We have to create the object here. So what it will do, it will send the status update for all the messages that were just delivered. And here we have the message id, message dot message id. Then we have the status, we will pass as a delivered. After that we have the sender, we will put here message dot sender. Then we have the receiver, we will write here message dot receiver. Now after this we will do other events for notify the partner about the user online status and all. We will write here io dot room id dot emit user underscore status, user id and status we are passing here online. And here we will check online users dot has this partner id. Then we will notify the user about the partner status. This will be partner id because here we are passing partner id in the join room. So all these functions we have to do inside the join room only. Here we will write socket dot emit, and we will update the user status with same, but here we have to write partner id. In the else condition we will just emit the user status as a offline, and we will pass the last scene of that user. We will first get the last scene from the DB. Constant last scene is equal to await get user last scene. We have to pass here partner id, socket dot emit user underscore status, and we have to update the same thing here. Here we will change the status to offline. In last scene, here we will check if last scene is null or empty. Then we will initialize with the new dot to ISO string. So what we are doing here, we are just get and send the partner last scene time if offline. Here in the catch we will just console write error handling room join, and here we have to pass the, so this socket is for the join room. So next one we will do for the send message, for handling the sending message and all. We will write a socket dot on, and the event name will be send underscore message. Here we have the async message. First we will check if not of message dot sender, not of message dot receiver, or not of message dot message, or not of message dot message id. That means messages which we are getting in this event is invalid. So we will just console log and we will return from here. We will write here console.error invalid message format, and we will pass this message there and we will return from here. After that we have to get the room ID. We will write here console room ID is equal to get room ID. We will pass the message dot sender. Then we have the message dot receiver here, and after that we will just save the message in the database. And for doing that we have to call the function which we have created, create message, and we will just pass this object here. We will write here dot message, and we will append the status here as a sent, and we will append the room ID. So here we are getting the message from the user, and status we are putting here, and room ID we are just creating here, and the initial status of the message will always be sent status. After that we will just console log here, console log message in room, and we will put the room ID from, and here we have to write the message dot sender ID. We have to write here message dot receiver ID, and we have to write the message here $sign message dot message. So here what we will do, here we will check if that receiver is online or not. If the receiver is online, then we will just set the status to deliver immediately. Suppose if you are a user A and you are sending message to the user B, and user B is already in the chat room, then whenever any message is sent by user A to user B, then it will be immediately change the status to deliver. So here what we will do, we will check here if online users dot has message dot receiver. We will make this message dot status is equal to delivered, and we will update the status here. We will call here update message status, and here we have to pass message dot message ID, and we have to write the status here delivered. And this function we have already created here. So what this function is doing, we are just finding that message on the basis of the message ID, and we are changing the status on the basis of the whatever the status we are passing. In the else we will make the message status is equal to send. After that we will emit this message to the receiver. We will write here io dot, and we will pass here room ID dot emit new underscore message, and we have to pass this message. So in this new message listener, they will receive the message object and all. After that we will check if the receiver is online but not in the room. That we will use for the notification purpose. Here we will write online users dot has message receiver. We will create one variable for the receiver socket ID is equal to online users dot get message dot receiver. Then one more variable constant receiver socket is equal to io dot sockets dot get this socket ID. So what we will do, we will just check here if the receiver has a socket, that means he is already online and have a active socket. Then we will just send the notification to that user, and here we will check if receiver socket and not of receiver socket dot rooms dot has this room ID, means that user is online but not with that particular chat room. Then we will just send the notification to that user, and we have to first find the constant sender detail. Sender is equal to await user dot find by ID this message dot sender dot select username, and from here we will just emit the notification. We will do receiver, and this notification will only goes to that particular receiver, and we will write here receiver socket dot emit, and name of the event will be new message underscore notification, and we have to create the object here with the sender detail and all. Here we have the sender ID is equal to message dot sender name. We have to pick from this sender username. Then we have the message ID message dot message ID. Then we have the message here, and we have to pick this message dot message. So what we are doing here, we are just checking here if that user is online or not. If that user is online but that user is not active with that particular chat room, in that case we will just emit one event new underscore message dot underscore notification, and we will send a notification to that user for a particular message they receive. After this, we have to create the event for the typing and all. Like any user is typing, we have to notify to the other user that they are typing something. And first we have to create one map to track the typing timeout for each user pair, and we will write a constant typing timeouts is equal to new map, and here we have to store the user ID underscore receiver ID, and we have to store the timeout. Now here we have to create the socket dot on this event typing underscore start. There will be two events. One will be for handling the start event for the typing when user start typing, and the another event we will create for typing end. So once the user stop typing, that event will also create. And here we have to pass user ID and receiver. We have to put inside our curly brackets. Now here we have to first check if not of user ID or not of receiver ID. Then we will return here. This will validate our data. After that, we have to get the room ID. Constant room ID is equal to room ID. So here we have to pass the user ID and receiver ID. And then we have to create one key. Key is equal to user ID underscore receiver ID. Here we have the user ID underscore receiver ID. And here we will check if typing timeout has this key. Then we will clear the timeout. Typing timeout dot get this key, and this will clear the any existing timeout for this user key pair. After that, we will send the typing indicator to that particular room, and we will write here socket.io, and we have to put here room ID dot emit typing underscore indicator, and here we have to pass user ID and is typing true. So now we will set a safety timeout to automatically stop the typing after 5 seconds, and here we will write constant timeout is equal to set timeout. Here we have to emit to room ID dot emit typing underscore indicator, and here we have to pass user ID is typing false. And here we will clean up the timeout entry from our array. We will write here typing timeout dot delete, and we have to pass this key here, and here we have to give the 5000 milliseconds, that will be equal to 5 seconds. And here we will save the timeout reference. We will write here typing timeout dot set. Here we have the key, and here we have the timeout. In the same way we have to do for the typing end also. We will just copy this one and we will paste here. Here we have to change it to typing end. Here we have to delete the reference typing timeout dot delete, and we have to pass this key, and then we have to just send the typing indicator with the user ID and the typing equal to false, and this one is not required because we are already doing the typing end here. So what we are doing here, we have just created two events. First one is for typing start. Whenever any user start typing, we will just that typing timeout is already in our array or not. If it is already having, then we will do the clear timeout here, and after that we will emit the event to user as a user ID and is typing as a true. After that we will, for the safely timeout, we will just doing the 5 second timeout, automatically timeout. Once the user stop working or after 5 seconds, it will be delete from here. After that we have the second event, that is typing underscore, and there we are just doing we are checking here if that typing timeout having any reference here. We will just clear from here, and we are sending the typing indicator to user as a is typing false. That means user stop typing, and we will collapse this one and here also. So now we will write the next event, and that will be for handling our message delivery status update and all. Here we will write socket dot on message underscore deliver. Here we have async message ID, then we have the sender ID, then we are having here receiver ID. We will put here try catch. In the try we will write here await update message status, and we will put the message ID here, and status we will set as it delivered. After that we will notify the sender about the delivery. So we will first create the variable for the room ID is equal to get room ID. We will pass here sender ID and receiver ID. Here we have to create the object here. Status update is equal to message ID. We are passing here message ID. Then we have the status here delivered. Then here we have the sender. This sender ID we will pass here. Receiver we pass here receiver ID. After that we will broadcast the status update to everyone which are in this room. That will be this sender ID and the receiver ID. We will write here io.to room ID dot emit message underscore status is status update. So the next event we will do for doing the message dot read event and all. For that also we will just copy this one. We will collapse from here. We will put here and we will change the event as a messages underscore read. So this will be for handling the marking multiple messages as a read, and here we are just passing the message IDs, sender ID, receiver ID, and inside here we will just do the loop here, for loop constant message ID from messages ID, it will be off, and this will update the message status in the database for all the messages. Here we call await update message status. We will pass the message ID dot message ID and we will put here a read. After that we will notify user about the status. We will remove this line. Here we have the room ID, and after that we will do messages ID dot for each message ID. Here we have this function we can copy from here, and this status we will change it to read. After that this message status we will copy from here and we will paste here. We will just pass the status for each message status and all. So what we are doing here, we are having one event that is messages underscore read, and there we are just looping through all the messages and we are updating that message as a read status. After that we are doing the room ID, and on the basis of all the messages we are just sending the status update to that room with the updated status. Now we will create the another event that will be for handle the marking all the messages as a read at once. We will just copy this one, we will paste here. We will mark underscore messages underscore read, and here we have to pass the user ID and the partner ID. So here first of all we have to get mark all our messages as a read. Here we have to first get the count by calling the function that is mark messages as read. If I go there, you will see what it's doing. It will check for that particular user ID and partner ID and only find those messages which are in a sent or the deliver status and mark them as a read. So this API will be only execute only once time. Like if we have to call, like if user is logged in first time and go directly to that particular partner, and then we will call this API so that it will mark all the messages at one go. Here we have to pass user ID and the partner ID. After that we will check here count is more than 0. Then we have to create this room ID. After that we have to emit here. We have to just cut this one and we have to pass this room ID, and here in the emit we have to write here messages underscore all read, and we have to create the object here reader, that will be user ID and sender will be partner ID. After that we will check if that sender is online but not in this room, then we will send them the direct notification. We have to remove this code, and here we will check if online users dot has partner ID. Then first we will get the sender socket ID. Socket ID is equal to online users dot get partner ID, and we have to get the socket detail also from io dot sockets dot get this sender socket ID, and here in the send message also we have to change it to this io dot sockets dot sockets, and here we will check if sender socket and not of sender socket dot rooms dot has room ID. Then we will call here sender socket dot emit message underscore all underscore read. Reader we will map with our user ID, and sender we will map with our partner ID. After that we have to create one more event, and that event will be handle the user status change. Like if user is online or offline. And here we have to write socket.on, and here we have user underscore status underscore change async, and here we have user ID status, and then we have last seen, and here we will check if status is equal to offline, and here we will update the last seen in our database. We will do await update user last seen. We will pass the user ID, whatever the last seen will be, that we will pass here, and we will check here if that user is in this socket area and all. If he is there, then we will remove that user. We will write here online users dot get user ID is equal to socket.id. Then we will remove from here online user dot delete this user ID. After that, we will notify all the relevant chat partner about the offline status for that user. We will put here io dot underscore user underscore status user ID, and here we have the user ID status offline, and last seen will be whatever the last seen we will pass from there. And else condition, if user came online, we will update here. We will write here online users dot set user ID and this socket ID, and we will emit the status here. This one we will change it to online, and we will remove this last seen from here. So what we are doing here, we are just calling the event that is user underscore status change event, and we are checking here if the status is offline. Then we are just updating the user last seen, and on the basis of that user ID and the last seen. And after that, we are also checking if that user is inside our online users collection. Then on the basis of that socket ID, then we are just deleting that user. After that, we are just emitting that user underscore status with the user ID with the status as offline, and the last seen, whatever the last seen will be. And the else condition, we are just setting that user ID and the socket ID, and we are just emitting that user status to user ID and the status as online. After that, we have to do the client disconnection handling and all. We will write here socket.on disconnect async. We will check here if current user ID, then we will remove here by checking if online users dot get user ID is equal to socket dot io dot id. Then we will delete from here online users dot delete this current user ID, and we have to update the last seen here. And we will just from here in the disconnect, we will just emit the user status also from here, and before that we have to update the user last seen, and we will put here last seen is equal to new date dot to ISO string await update user last seen. We have to pass a current user ID and the last seen, and then we have to emit this status. We will copy from here and we will paste here, and this user ID we will change with this current user ID. And in the we are just calling this event, that is disconnect event, in the socket, and here we are checking for the current user ID which we have created in the starting. You can see here this user, when user register or when any user join, then we will put this current user ID with the user ID, and then we are checking here if that user is inside our online user array, then we will delete from there, and then we are just updating the last seen for that user, and we are updating in our database, and we are just emitting the event user underscore status with that status to all user. We are not sending, you have to see here one thing, like this io.emit we are doing for all user. If you have to do any emit for any particular user, then you have to pass the chat room ID here, or you can say the whatever the session we join there, that ID we have to pass here. So now we have to create the last method which we have pending here, that will be the check pending message, and this helper function will be help to check for and notify about the pending message if there will be any for that particular user when they register to the system. And here we will write async function check pending messages user ID. We'll put the try catch here. We will find all the messages which are having status sent. We will write a constant pending messages is equal to await message dot find. We have to pass a receiver this user ID, and status will be sent, and we will populate the sender detail, sender this username, and then here we will check if pending messages dot length is more than 0. Then we will group the messages by creating one variable messages by sender. We will create the object here. Then we will loop through pending messages dot for each message, and here we will check if not of messages by sender msg dot sender underscore dot underscore id. Then we will make this array msg dot sender underscore id is equal to empty array, and here we will just start pushing the messages inside our array messages by sender, and we have to pass this id msg dot sender dot underscore id dot push msg. So here we will check if we are having any socket for this user. If we are having, then we will send a notification about the pending messages from each users. We will write here constant user socket is equal to iu dot sockets dot get online users dot get user id user socket. Then we have object dot keys messages by sender dot for each this sender id. We have the constant count is equal to messages by sender id dot length constant sender name is equal to messages by sender, and here we have the sender id. We are just picking the sender name from this array dot sender dot username. After that we will emit this user about all the pending messages. We have this user socket dot emit. We have pending underscore messages. We have this sender id sender name count. Then we have the latest message, and here we have the messages by sender this sender id, and we have to show the latest message only, not the old messages dot message. And we will uncomment this code from here. So now our socket integration also completed. So now in the next video we will cover how we can integrate this chat API with our Flutter application. There we will learn how the real-time chat application work. So I hope you like the video. Don't forget to subscribe channel, like, comment, share. I will come back soon with another awesome video. Thank you for watching the video.